Oh boy. Oh god. Just quit. Okay. Yeah. Since Total War is a full screen game, it does that until you actually open the window. Um, yeah. It's very annoying. But there's not much around that. So we'll just do it. Okay. Let's see. Let's fucking see how hard this campaign is. Because it says that it's a hard start, so that's usually a bad. That probably means I'm at war with multiple nations or loading
As
into a
king of all
battle.
the Scythians, your claim upon the lands of the Catiaroi to the west is just. Do with them as you see fit. Right to the southeast and you will find Sarmatians. Be wary, for they are your equals in archery and horsemanship. But will not think twice when you have seized lands and herds from under their very noses.
Hmm.
Although horses cannot ride across water, a port will enable trade and conquest with kingdoms beyond the Black Sea. Bosporus to the south is a gateway to the farthest reaches of the Mediterranean. The Scythians could yet be masters of all.
They hallucinate about food and starve even quicker if I'm lucky. Eat dirt. Jesus Christ, dude. Completely control two provinces either by direct ownership or through military allies. My reward is 2,500. Okay, let's see. Are we at war right off the jump? Is the real question. We are at war right off the jump.
I am the knife.
Are we at war with one or two nations? I just want to make it clear, by the way, I have not played this game a lot, so I'm not the best. So I'm learning as I go for this game. Ultimate objectives. Okay. Macedonia, Hellas, Africa, Magna Graecia, Italia, and Carthage. Should be easy enough. Maybe back home. There you go. There's Italy right there, so that means Rome is like in this area-ish, right? Oops. Rome is like around in this area here. I believe this would be the Rome. I'd be down, sure. It depends though on if they complete the goal tonight, then tonight would be the if they complete the goal tonight, I'd be doing a 24-hour stream this weekend. Okay, so we have that. Current finances. I will get 2079.
The Trade tab details all resources
Forces.
How can I assist you? I am the knight on the move.
I'm gonna move this guy here.
Sure there is nothing else.
7,000. Read this. I can't do any edicts. That's alright. Let's take a look at this army. It's a decent army. I got horse archers. I got the king and I got young axes.
What would you have of me? I'll just that didn't go as well as I had hoped.
I need to know how big. He's got the same size army.
Agents are recruited directly from a province via the recruitment tab on the review panel. Recruitment is instant, but cost may vary depending on a number of factors, such as the presence of certain buildings, faction,
guys.
or character traits.
In battle, there is no finer ending.
Okay, that's that. That's that. Any wealth plus more archers. More morale. I do want spearmen. As much as I love archers, I do want spearmen. We're gonna go for that one. I've got no choice but to end. Jesus Christ, there's a lot of fucking... Thank you.
How can I assist you? I like it. It is done.
For the tribe! Thirsty for battle.
Okay, we're not at war. That sucks. Are we at war with these guys? We're not. Okay, so I need to make a decision then right now if I'm going to declare war on anyone. Let's take a look. Be these guys.
Greetings! Speak plainly and without idle purpose, and all will be well. A sure
They
thrust
have
strikes home after all.
no enemies. They're at war with someone. These guys. Your however you say their fucking name. Fuck it. I'm gonna declare war. I'm gonna go take their land.
Ready for orders.
Yep, declare war.
Have your waging settlement.
And we're gonna sabotage their army.
That is not possible.
Oh, we can't.
This panel shows you the information about a character.
Okay. This will be done upgrading after. I need more population surplus.
Thirsty for battle.
Oh.
What would you have of me?
A character's household is the objects, assistants, and general hangers-on that he or she accumulates whilst carrying out their tasks, and which in turn affect their abilities. They are
I have
acquired
some
as the
things planned out,
campaign
yes.
progresses.
It's not all set in stone yet, but I have some things planned out. Okay, they're coming to me. That's good. Let's save real quick. Somehow, they're stronger than me. I have a lot of fucking archers. Shit. Okay, we'll fight this one. This might not go well. This might not go well. This is my first battle in Rome too. So this is either going to be a win or a loss. You ever want a nut in a mixed chicken? The fact that this is a quote concerns me.
Step archers! Young Nexus!
Group selected units or ships together.
Stay as you are.
What's the McChicken challenge?
Get organized. Missile-armed riders! Stay together!
Riders! Canterbury circle!
Young Nexus! Battle ready and eager! Young Nexus! Hold! Our aim is true! Move out! So, they have some honor. We'll kill them all! Where are the foes? Oh! They will bleed for us.
Oh, we're fucked. We're cooked. They got a lot of horse archers. They don't really have a lot of melee. They have these guys. Yeah, more horse archers. They're pretty much just horse archers. I don't even know if they have actual, like, regular infantry.
Step archers!
Quickly now! Ready for battle! Missile-armed riders! Young Nexus! Warriors ready! Battle ready and eager! Step archers! Ready! Fire!
Archers!
Horse archers! Step archers!
Noble horse archers! Form the circle!
Melee fighters ready! Warriors eager for blood! Step archers!
Jeez. Yes, Fenrir.
As you say! Horse archers! Watch out! We hunger for blood! Fire! Young Nexus! Warriors, move out! Orders! Katu Slaugo! Step archers! Young Nexus!
Noble horse archers!
you!
The men are wavering.
Get move it! Ready! Warriors eager for blood!
Our general is under attack.
Fire on them! Young Axis!
This is not boding well, gentlemen
Step
and ladies.
archers!
This is better.
Follow me!
I took this on a little bit too aggressively, but it's fine.
Missile-armed riders!
Get organized! Re-encircle, now!
Young Axis! Fire on them! Horse archers! Come down!
Noble horse archers!
Now!
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Our general has fallen.
That's fine, man. At this rate, I expected that.
Blood!
Scrappers ready!
Missile riders! Now!
Yeah, this is
Ready for
this is not boding well.
Flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
our aim is true. Kill them all! Riders, forward! Our aim is true! Guard! Stand down! Ah!
I pretty much lost my entire army. This is a very terrible first battle.
Horse archers! Send them screaming to the afterlife! Get ready!
Go help.
Step archers! They're the missile warriors! Rah!
This is very bad. This is not looking good for this campaign down the line, like at all. If the fact that my
Our
first
men
battle
flee the field of battle.
is essentially a
This is a
loss,
shameful display.
is really fucking bad. This looks terrible on me.
Missile riders!
You know, maybe I should have played Minecraft instead. Oh, fuck. Dude, we're so cooked. Why aren't my archers...
Advance!
Hello?
at Speed! Riders! Advance!
Noble horse. Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Running around in a circle will make it a little bit harder for them to be shot, but it will make shooting arrows a little bit harder. No, I'm hoping that this does something. That. Got 44, they got 36.
The enemy general is dead.
There you go. Come on, dude. They're gonna fucking try to stab you. There you go.
Charge! Your worst, lads. The battle is turning in our favor.
Yes! Let's fucking go. Let's save the replay. End battle. Alright, let's take a look. So, top one is me. Bottom one is them. Okay? I deployed 720 troops. I basically lost my entire army. In one battle. This is really bad. But I'm gonna keep them.
A token, perhaps a modest gift of coin.
Yeah, 91%. This is not good. I need to find a new general as well. Yeah, we're not doing archers this time. Fuck that. We're gonna do him. Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. They got another army? They got another fucking army. I'm gonna hire mercenaries. I'm taking this place.
Besieging settlement.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! This is really bad.
None will escape.
This is really bad. They have quite a big fucking army.
That is not possible. Sabotage. I like that word. There is hope yet.
They have quite a lot of people. This is really fucking bad. This is looking terrible for me. Hornmaker, less food, less food. Keep that noted. We're gonna raise another army. These guys.
Thirsty for battle. Fight with us. It's a good life.
It's gonna start costing us a lot of fucking money. But if I don't do this, I'm fucked. I need to do something. How much is it gonna cost me? I'm gonna get 645 on the next turn. But if I can take this, this increases my money a little bit more. So all I need to do is take. There's a chance they're gonna try to attack. Yeah, I'm gonna start moving my troops. Oh, I can't go anywhere. They're gonna definitely attack me. Maybe. I think we just already. Yeah, we just. No, I was right. He's got a big army reinforcing him. He's got 640 troops. Ooh. You know what? Balanced stance. I want to keep a big chunk of my army. Let's fucking go. I lost 100 men out of that.
You have further orders?
This is fine. This was risky, but that was fine. That was fine. And then we're gonna take the land. We're gonna encircle him real quick. Okay, we got 1,300 gold. I'm gonna send this guy over so he can reinforce. There you go.
What would you have of me?
Go sabotage their army if you can. It's gonna fail probably. It did, but that's fine.
This was not a success.
How many troops do they have left?
Honor me, if you must.
I will.
In addition to skills gained through experience, characters develop traits that affect their abilities. Some
Okay. Now this is doing good here. We're too poor to do anything with it, but it's fine. If I can take another piece of land, start.
War coordination goes further than alliances and requests to join wars. It enables factions to mark specific targets, such as a particular settlement or agent. Place a marker on the campaign map to label something a war coordination target.
Ha ha!
Close a shot. Be sick. Minor settlement, but all right.
Ready for orders. Kill!
One. They're probably gonna assault to try to defend.
As all the gods look down on us, they too must wonder why we are not firmer allies and friends.
Counter. You're the one that wants this non-aggression pact. So you give me 500.
I humbly ask that you at least consider a formal...
There. Don't ask me for fucking money. 1,000 is fucking crazy work.
Warriors, get moving! We cannot do that. Starting out.
Okay. And we're gonna assault. We're gonna fucking assault.
Horse archers! Orders! Understood! Riders! Missile-armed riders! Today we take the initiative and seize this opportunity.
Our reinforcements have arrived.
There you go. There you go.
Or die. Today we fight for glory.
Get that there. I think there's gonna be more.
Royal horsemen!
We'll get the Royal Horseman with my guy.
Riders! Riders! Advance!
One.
Armored horse archers! Now! Forward!
I'm gonna try to see if I can light their boats on fire. I don't remember well if fire, like archers, flaming arrows will light boats on fire.
Fire on them! Our aim is true. Battle ready and eager.
Battle ready and eager!
Step archers!
Archers!
Take aim! Missile up!
Well, go on.
Hunger for blood and battle.
Of course, they're like gonna keep a fucking distance. Pussies.
Understood!
Young axes!
The gods guide
Come on, get closer. Come on.
loose.
Let's go.
Prepare to attack. Ready for battle. Sheath your weapon.
All right.
Armored horse archers! Rocket bus at speed!
We'll kill them all. Fire! High! Loose!
My blade is itching to cut you open!
Quickly! Now!
There we go.
As you say! Advance at speed!
So this is how it must have been to feel like to be a witch in Salem during the 1600s. Just everyone on fucking fire constantly. I see why they were pretty fucking pissed.
Quickly now!
Yeah, if I were them, I'd be pretty fucking mad too.
High!
For victory!
Okay, that reduced those numbers down. Leave this one be.
Battle ready and eager! Fire!
Royal horsemen! Armored horse archers!
Ready for battle!
What now?
We hunger for blood and battle!
Step, archers!
Follow me! Fire on them!
battle ready and eager!
Melee fighters ready! Get running!
Have these guys start moving in.
The men are wavering.
Pussies.
We hunger.
Ready for battle! Advance and speed! Loose!
Woo! We're making good moves, guys. Let's fucking go. That's 2 fucking victories. 2 fucking victories this campaign so far. We've captured our first fucking piece of territory. This is really fucking good. I was thinking about playing this game high at some point.
For the tribe!
Yep, we're gonna get concentrated grounds. That's our next thing.
Thirsty for battle!
Thirsty for battle!
You're gonna sit here.
Warriors all!
Trade and finances. We're gonna get 731 next
For the tribe!
round, so it's better than 0 right now. We've captured 1 fucking land. Oh man. What about my screen? Wait, what? Are you fucking serious right now? Makes me wonder how long it's been like that for. Is my previews everywhere? Like my previews on OBS? Show it's fine. Why is it like this? The fuck? Wonder if it's like that on Twitch. Yeah, I know. It does that. The game is really weirdly designed. It forces you on full screen mode. When you open it like that, it starts tweaking. It's fine on Twitch. I'm so fucking confused. I'm so confused. I'll fix it on give it a few minutes. I'm gonna finish his army off. Does he have any more land? Does not. Does I don't know where. Is his? Not his. I believe that was all of his land. Ash, how does it look now on YouTube here in a minute? Is it still black? Apparently it's doing the same thing on TikTok. Is it just fucking Total War? I've seen so many people bring this game, so I don't really see why Total War would be doing. Okay. It's fine. Huh. Very weird. Okay. Refresh. For some reason on YouTube the screen remains black. We'll see if it sorts itself out. Fine. But for now, see anything I can improve. Fisherman's Hut. What is even my public order looking like? I'm gonna go down at every turn. I gotta find a way to improve things in this area. That's something I've always been very terrible with. Is finding like a way to improve my towns and stuff. Like I'm assuming probably by upgrading things is gonna make things better. I can't do edicts either. So they definitely don't fucking like me. Hey Stacy, how are you?
Ready for orders.
How many truces does he have? First known as my tradition.
Ready for battle. For the tribe.
I'm good, thank you. Okay, he's coming to try to attack now. What a bitch. Of course he fucking is. But it's not gonna work out for him.
Ready for orders.
Oh, he's got more troops. He's hired fucking mercenaries.
Warriors all. Ready for kill.
Bro, save this bitch. Fight. Fight it on the feet.
An ambush is a sneak attack on a passing army. The usual rules for deployment do not apply here. Your forces will attack the enemy whilst they are in marching order. This is not always the best option to take in every situation.
Welcome
The
back.
enemy army will not be able to move until
Good
the
news.
battle begins, so deploy carefully to cause maximum confusion and disorder.
Hopefully you guys can have a good sleep too. And the baby doesn't keep you guys awake. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so we're gonna do an ambush. You don't risk your soul. Okay, that's good. That's actually very good. We're doing an ambush.
Young Axis.
Yes, Ender. I've been just playing this. What about you? Oh, streaming actually. Oh, nothing specific.
Pause, archers!
Battle ready and eager. Young Axis.
Yes, Ender. That's correct. Everyone is there.
Ready.
Nothing much else they can do right now. Yeah, until you get your PC back.
Young Axis.
Step, archers!
Come on.
Young Axis. The gods guide our shots. Fire!
Oh, you saw for a second, buddy. You're gonna die. Yoink. Oh, that was devastating. That was devastating. That was beautiful. Come on, send another one out. Another good volley out. Hopefully it gets fixed soon, or you got a new one. Come on, make a move. Make a move. Oh. All the arrows is just beautiful. Oh, oh. Come on, give me more. Oh my god, that's beautiful. That's just, oh. 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 All those, oh my god. Kill their general. Come on, man.
The enemy general is dead.
Good work. I'm gonna just real quick settings. Battle advice. The battle advice I need is kill everything. Actually, funny enough as it is, speaking of the game market being bad, there's a Russian dude that put out a tutorial on how to build your own RAM because in Russia, RAM prices are exceptionally higher than they are here. And it's going to get worse now with the RAM prices. So he's showing off how to build your own RAM. In reality, DDR5 RAM, most of it is just software that's telling it that's DDR5. So with DDR4, you tell it it's DDR5, it's gonna act like DDR5. Some dude made a 32 gig RAM stick from a bunch of small little piece, like laptop RAM. This is good. Oh god, this is very good. First ambush. This is a very good victory. Very good, very good.
Your army has suffered casualties and requires fresh recruits to replenish troop numbers. If an army is in a friendly province and not undertaking a forced march, unit replenishment will occur automatically. The rate of replenishment is enhanced when an army is mustering. The closer an army is to a province containing fresh recruits, the faster the rate
I
of
don't think the
replenishment will
US should be doing anything under.
If no replenishment occurs, it may be because the army is on enemy territory or within an area of attrition.
I don't think the US should do anything. You didn't hear what's happening with RTX? They're discontinuing the 5060 and 5070 because VRAM is too expensive. Ugh. That fucking sucks, man. I have a 5060. I get it. But I do not like the fact that AI is what's taken over most of the prices of RAM. I don't think AI should have that much power. In terms of like consumer level stuff. It's a big fucking army. That's a big fucking army. I'm definitely not there yet. But I need to capture another land. These guys have multiple pieces of land. I need to find one that's a single territory. That's not a giant fucking army. How many territories do you own? But you're a big army, but do you own more than one? I believe I can find out through the factions window.
Well met, friend. Sit and let your words move me to anger or agreement, as you wish of them.
Kiradova has, it's a pretty big piece of territory. So there's these guys here. I don't have a treaty with these guys. They seem to only control one piece of territory, but I haven't discovered the entire thing. So there's a chance they own more land. I believe there's one person who would know the answer to that question, and that would be Nil, and I don't think he's in the chat right now. Yeah, I don't believe he's in the chat. Let's see. Hmm. 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 I believe Nil may have gone to bed. If that's the case, that's all right. So we can figure it out from there. Okay. I could take this. White is me. Know that. Oh, they own. Oh, we'll find out when he gets higher up there. If they own more, I'm gonna hold off on attacking them until this army at the least
Ready for orders.
fully replenishes, and that will take 7 turns. I could hire mercenaries, worst case. Yeah, I'm gonna hire mercenaries. I should help replenish a little bit more. These guys, 2 turns. Oh. What? Let's go, Palakis.
Thirsty for battle.
Yes.
Warriors all.
Might honestly be easier to spam my forces with this lowest amount
Ready for orders.
troops, and that will take longer to replenish. Yeah, it might just be easier to spam and recruit them again.
Death in battle. There is no finer ending. Ready for battle.
Okay, I'm gonna have him move. Okay, so that's just a border. They don't seem to own anything beyond the chance that this up theirs is theirs.
Thirsty for battle. Get moving. Journey completed. For the tribe.
Definitely don't have enough troops to
Thirsty for
be
battle.
attacking. I'm gonna back these out. I'm gonna beat my. I'm gonna bring my troops back. I just realized I didn't start another research. I'd lose simply just at the sheer
If
amount
the
of.
faction's initial offer or demand isn't quite what you had in mind, you can use the counter-offer option to enable further negotiation to take place, rather than simply...
I am moving unseen.
Yeah. But we don't own this.
I could be of further help. I can't.
Discover more land.
For the tribe.
Give me another research.
Thirsty for battle. Get moving. Finding shelter. Ready for order. Starting out. Ready for battle. Move out. For the tribe. On the move, lads.
Getting closer to a goal, but not the goal. If I hold 3 territories, I should be able to get some points. So this is gonna look good on me. Oh, Streamlabs doesn't show me yet. Oh, Stream Elements doesn't show me yet. How far is it? How close am I per hour? Seemingly feasible by the end of the week. They know.
Warriors all!
I'm gonna build another army out
Duty,
of
my
this.
warriors! Ready for battle!
Hey, see your unit. 92%. What side? How that mean?
Thirsty for battle! Warriors all!
How do you... They have some slingers, but mainly spears. I think I can take them.
Thirsty for battle! War! Oh, a good dread! Them cower before us!
Okay, let's see. I might win or I might lose. I might win or I might lose the battle. Once if they come to me now. Yep, I knew it. Okay. He's got 2,000 men, but they're mainly all foot infantry. Well, a big chunk of my men are archers. Okay, we're gonna save, just play it safe. And we're gonna fight this. Hey, for YouTube. Remember this.
Young access!
I'm gonna have these guys embedded with my general. This is where we're gonna cook.
Ready to defend.
Heavy shot. Oh, 5 to the 9.
Ready for battle!
Type.
Loose! Missile arms, riders! Take aim! Take aim! Armored horse archers! Get the free circle! Armored horse archers! Whose archers? Understood!
Alright, switch to fire arrows.
We'll kill them all! Aye!
Oh!
Riders! Canterbury circle! Armored horse archers! Long access! Fire on them! Stab archers! Our general is under attack.
Royal horse.
This might not look good. I might lose this one.
Look now! Orders! Set fire on her! Royal horsemen! Armored horse archers! Look, take aim! Ready! Fire on her! Fire on her! Back!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Riders! Blood on! Draw your weapons! Get them! Mounted death! Make them... Ah!
Oh, this guy.
Now! Warriors, withdraw!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Stop! Stop!
Oh.
Royal horsemen! Battle ready and eager!
Okay, that's them dead.
Missile riders!
Let's have them withdraw. Let's have you guys withdraw.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
No.
Armored horse archers! On riders, advance! Reform! Os archers! Royal horsemen! Charge!
Warriors, eager for blood!
No.
Royal horsemen!
A unit is running from the battlefield.
Warrior! Access!
Just run. 19, right? That beamer.
The battle is turning in our favor.
Yes!
Warriors! Eager for blood! Royal horsemen! Follow me quickly now!
Hey, good night, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Take charge! Do not shame the gods!
We won. We won. Very good. Very good attack. Very good. Very good. I lost pretty much my entire army though. I had 1,400 men. I lost 985 of my troops. Yeah. So from
Gathering supplies. For the tribe.
Please come back. Please come back. I'm gonna be back. Okay, we're gonna hire these guys for the time being.
Ready for
Because we're gonna make a move.
That way is shut. Your next command.
We're gonna make a move. 120 in total. We're gonna save super quick. And we're gonna do. This is a manual fight. Better do this by hand, more fun. But higher chance of losing. After that, we're gonna disband some of the troops, get some wealth back in. I don't think I'm not gonna be attacking anyone for a bit. So I'm definitely gonna get rid of all the mercenaries.
Missile riders.
When I was a lad, I dreamed of leading men such as you, the greatest warriors of our tribe. Now I shall show you.
Enemy reinforcements approaching.
On the wedge! Now! On mid-riders! Advance!
We're gonna get rid of their reinforcements before they can even arrive.
Oh, shut up.
Ride out, riders! Forward!
We don't want their reinforcement to arrive.
Royal horsemen! Advance at speed!
Yeah, like I said, if I can cut off their reinforcements, that just makes me having to fight a big bulk of their troops, sure. But I can focus on a different approach. So they have missile infantry.
Clouds! Spear horsemen!
Come on, do not. Fuck.
Armored horse archers!
No. I'm gonna do the tickle them. I'm gonna do the tickle their ball strat. Tickle their ball strat, you know? Make them think I'm coming. Fake them out, you know? But then last second, halt their attack. There you go.
Riders, forward!
Oh fuck! Oh god, god, no!
Run,
Run! No! Oh my god. That's a lot of arrows in his poor body. Okay, fake out didn't work. Fake out didn't work. Let's get heavy shot.
Take aim!
Go ahead. Send out a volley of arrows. Close enough. Send out a singular volley. Yep. Okay. Oh god. Not a big volley of arrows, but it's a volley.
Missiles ready! Warriors, move out! Forward! Armored horse archers! Forward!
Okay, they're moving. They're moving. They're coming.
We'll kill them all! Riders, advance! Aye! Riders, forwards!
How's their horses have horns? Oh, come on. Do I have to do this again? Are they close enough for standard arrows? Not even. Insecure feudal pyre. Come on, pussies, make a move.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Oh, yeah. Come on, pussies, make a move.
Swift horsemen! All right! Run, riders! Advance!
Come on, can they start making a move?
Riders!
I made a move. And my move is right there. Just more of my move.
Advance! Skirmishes! Get running! Run, curse you! Get running! Spear horsemen! Battle ready! Ready for...
Gotta corral them. Where's mine? Oh my, those eyes like fire. I'm a papaya. Oh my, right. Hell, fire. We're gonna be behind them.
Rapidly now! Stop now! Rapid buzz at speed! Roll forward!
This is a very terrible spot to get into.
As
Right.
you say!
Get them out. Get them out. Get them out.
Advance at speed! Armored horse archers! Young axes! Horse archers! Warriors eager for blood! Defense and speed! Mounted death! Skirmishes!
The men are wavering.
Our horses lack blood! Deadly missiles ready! Armored horse archers!
Come on. Those eyes like fire, I'm a wind inside your funeral pyre.
Missile armed warriors!
Tired,
Armored
eyes
horse
are
archers!
the spins.
Kill! 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 Skirmishers! Weapons ready! Black warriors!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Hunger for blood and metal! Hack-yards! Por comandando! Foes! Ah!
Come on, reduce down their military. We want their fucking territory. We want their fucking settlement, is what we want.
Battle ready! Eager!
Armored horse archers!
The enemy general is dead.
Yes.
Swift horsemen! Withdraw! Catil! One commandano! Catualo! Horse archers! Missile armed riders! Ah! Royal horsemen! Ah!
Fearless!
Quickly, reduce the men. Bring down the numbers, men.
An entire unit has perished. Our general is under attack.
Axes! Riders! And quickly now! Foe!
Orders! Yeah!
Riders!
Come on, men. This may mean victory.
Pull back! Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
This is a victory. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, I lost so many men. I think I have an entire army that's just gone. Like an entire group that's gone.
Thirsty for battle! Ready
Okay.
for orders!
My entire army is pretty much just mercenary.
Thirsty for battle!
Oh my god, that was funny. Io's eyes like fire, I'm a winged insect, you're a funeral pyre. Oh my way through these hell, you're a boat throw higher. Wait, am I at war with these guys?
Call this a garrison?
What?
Messing
Fuck with their army a
with
little bit.
enemy. Was there ever any doubt?
Back, you down.
You have the ear of my people. Do not waste words. We are worthy of better.
This option is a formal request to end hostilities between your faction and another.
Warriors all,
Taking me back.
are you ready to do your duty to the tribe?
Right into the turn. We're gonna recruit a new army, and we're gonna go take that territory as well. Most likely gonna end up being what's gonna happen. Is that if they come by to try to fight me, I'm not fucking winning that. And they're likely marching.
Death in battle. There is no finer ending.
This is about to be really fucking expensive, though.
Yes.
Can't even afford to sabotage.
What would you have of me?
I don't rack the hush. For what I'll become. My mind, those eyes like fire. I'm a wind insect. You're a funeral pyre. Try right to. I don't know. You hell, the gods grow tired. In the turn, it's gonna be really fucking expensive, but we could probably take Gallic down this stream at least. Hopefully, the stream. Oh, we got War Dance.
Thirsty for battle.
Fucking max that out again. How much is this costing me? It just keeps going down. Oh my god. I don't know what's got anything in me. Next turn, I'm gonna do this one. Try to get that public order up a little bit. Might be more beneficial than recruiting a mega fucking army.
My ancestors have spoken well of you, and so we offer a treaty.
I'm happy to accept this treaty. I'm happy to accept this treaty. But I might go against it at some point. I don't know yet. Those eyes. Can I exempt Dacia from taxes? I did my bit. Around a battery higher. Details. Untaxed province. They're not very happy with me. Like, I don't think they like me, you know? mineral spring that I want. That would take 10 turns. But I need something that can help. That will help with improving public order. Okay, we're gonna keep this one going.
For the tribe!
There's an uprising, that's fine. We'll quash it down, I guess. I'm assuming that's probably all I can really do right now. Just quash down any rebellions.
Every army, fleet, or agent can reveal information about rival armies, fleets, and settlements in their immediate proximity or within their line of sight. The level of detail available depends on the type of character who is spying. So, for instance, spies are able to reveal more than champions.
Raise a small army.
Warriors all! We need good fighters!
I'm gonna give you this.
Ready for orders!
Your job is gonna be to maintain public order. Okay, let's focus on this. My heart. What is this? Oh. Oh yeah, I forgot it shows your victories and stuff. Like in certain places. Especially I think if the battle was like dire or something, it shows you it or something. I don't remember. I know there's conditions for that. Hello, Frozen Thoughts.
all!
Sabotage. Failure. I succeed.
Thirsty for battle!
Okay, we're gonna end our turn, then we're gonna start our march. 93%. Fuck. That's just my heart out. Oh hell yeah. Okay, let's start our march.
We take this settlement for the tribe! First, to your duty, my warriors! Is that all?
We're gonna have an army.
Garrison!
Have an army presence. Make it mercenaries. That should put them into. Okay, but we're gonna gold. There we go. 696 is better than 0. So
Ready for orders!
have you.
Hell, I'll just... It is done. I am the knife in the dark.
Oh. Start a new research. No. I'm gonna start this one.
For the tribe!
What would you have of me?
My son. Oh, we might be fucked. I might have to hire mercenaries to increase my numbers. I think I'm like really low on numbers. Especially if these guys were to make a move. Don't know where you are. Yep. Fuck off, guy. In the darkness, I will never leave. Oh. This might make it easier because I have pretty much just archers. If I mark them all as heavy shot and just have them wipe this place clean, maybe I'll have a better luck. Just get in the car. Let's group these guys together. Put them all on heavy shot. We'll do this one.
It is with great pleasure we face these Gauls today. I have waited and prayed ever since I had my first Gallic maidservant when I... Through, boys! Fire!
Okay, back up, back up, back up, back up. Don't let them, don't. Oh.
Mounted death! Rider forwards!
The men are wavering.
Pull back! Target running! All right! Warriors, move out!
Okay. Come on.
Monsters are raiding on us!
Get moving!
We're just gonna bring them for a tour. Gonna have them go around. I slowly but surely we're gonna reduce our numbers down. I mean, it's working pretty well so far. Only issue is that I'm running out of arrows pretty quick.
Wait here!
Alright, get into my circle.
Understood!
Start reducing down their numbers. There you go. Oh, back up, back up, back up, back up. They fucked with us. They tricked us.
Warriors eager for blood! Ready for battle!
We have discovered the enemy's hidden units.
Run, curse you! Prepare to attack!
Fighters! Get to green circle! On the circle!
Come on.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Let's pull the slap you across the face a little bit, Strat, then
Our
pull
men
out.
flee the field of battle.
Well,
This is a shameful display.
of course some are gonna fucking flee. That's the sheer attack that I just did. I started eating my men.
No! Take aim! Ready yourselves!
flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display. Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display. We are losing ground.
Let's say those fucking words to me right now. Oh, we are. Oh, we're cooked.
Our men flee the field of battle.
Oh my god,
This
yeah,
is
we're.
a shameful display.
I got too cocky. I got too cocky. No, concede defeat. I got too cocky. First loss though, but I got too cocky. I got too fucking cocky. I should have not done the. Load. Quick save. We'll go back in time. We'll do this again. Definitely makes me wonder though. Where are auto resolve? I'll do 75% of my men.
Making camp.
Yes. I'll just put that there.
Ready for battle.
But what I'm gonna do.
This was not a success.
For the tribe! Wipe them out!
I'm gonna kill them. It's gonna make my life easier for any further movements, so I'm gonna kill them.
Starting out!
And I'm gonna
Take
move.
this settlement for the tribe!
Start deployment. Okay.
Ah, this bunch of peasants must be farmers or slaves. They stink to high heaven. Step on! Guide our shots! The gods guide our
Fuck it.
Wait on my word! Take aim! Understood! Warriors eager for blood!
The men are wavering.
My men shouldn't be wavering, pussies.
Our men flee the field of battle.
Pussies.
This is a shameful display. Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Withdraw!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display. Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Warriors, withdraw!
Oh, come on.
Back, warriors!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Come on, we can win this.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Fuck.
Back! Warriors, withdraw!
Withdraw! Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display. Our general is under attack.
Gonna be a loss. Speed it up. We're gonna quick save whore this bitch. I did quick save it. Again. If I didn't quick save it, that's on me. If I didn't quick save it, that's on me, gentlemen. Okay, I didn't quick save it.
Destination reached.
Okay.
Warrior, kill the cowards. Ready for further orders.
There you go.
Thirsty for battle. On the move, lads. Besieging settlement.
I'll resolve. Ow.
Ready for orders. Thirsty for battle.
No, we're gonna keep it.
Ready for battle. Thirsty for battle.
Okay.
For the tribe.
Get you this skill. New tradition. No. That one.
Ready for orders.
On the turn. Are you kidding me? We have a rebellion?
Ready for battle. Warriors all. Ready.
Auto.
Is there nothing else? Starting out.
We're gonna take out the rebels. I am not letting a rebellion thrive in my land. No, sir.
Move out.
Makes them even more mad, but
I want hourly patrols.
nope. Not happening. Okay. Dave. Good night, guys.